Welcome back to the Water We Share podcast. This week we have our first guest speaker, Dr. Stephen Moysey. How are you doing today, Dr. Moysey?
Good, thanks. How are you doing, Tyler?
Doing great. So, on the Water We Share podcast, we kind of talk about the Water Resource Center here at ECU does and a little bit about the COPE project. The coolest thing about the COPE project is that Dr. Moysey actually brought it to ECU. So, Dr. Moysey, what can you tell us about some of the efforts you've achieved through bringing COPE to ECU?
Well, the COPE project is a really large-scale project. So it actually has like 9 universities involved and like a bunch of faculty, like over 50 people are involved in this project. Mm-hmm. So it's a really, really big project. And it's focused around trying to understand more about what makes our communities resilient in Eastern North Carolina to our changing environment around us.
Okay.
And in particular, we were really interested in not just the science side of things, so we do a lot of that. We have people doing computer models and a lot of water quality sampling and sensors and all kinds of things like that, and a lot of social scientists trying to understand our environment. But it's really tying that together also with communities themselves and trying to understand, how much does bringing that science and collaborating with communities, and in particular on the issues and problems and challenges that they face in the community themselves and putting their needs forward first, how does that lead to kind of more resilient types of environments for us to live in?
Oh, wow. Have you seen any impacts personally in Greenville after establishing this?
Yeah, sure. So, there's been a lot of things going on through the project, ranging from programs, like we've run a community science camp for multiple years. Yeah, you remember being in that? Excellent. Thank you again for all your contributions to that.
No, it's no problem.
And I think the impacts on the kids, who are involved in that and learning about the importance of their communities, but how science gets them, can help them think about their communities and reflect on their communities was really impactful for a lot of them. They really enjoyed that. We had the Tar River Community Science Festival for multiple years now, which you've also been involved in.
It was a lovely time. I highly recommend it.
So there's been lots of programs like that, but we've also worked with different groups on specific problems and issues.
Absolutely.
So, for example, some of our community liaisons who are community members who are working with our team have worked on a variety of projects ranging from trying to think about issues like plastics,
like Dr. Yoshi.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll be talking to her if you haven't yet.
Oh, absolutely. Alex is quite in touch with her.
Excellent. So that's like one example of really where she's been very passionate about that. But there's lots of other examples. We've worked with people in communities from all around Eastern North Carolina, all the way from up near Princeville, all the way out to the Outer Banks, and worked on a variety of different kinds of problems with them.
I think a great example is probably Moywood. Seeing Michelle Ding go about making a community garden and helping the liaisons out there actually get this thing set up and making food for their community.
That's such a great example of one of these projects because it gets at the community's needs, right? They were really interested. Throughout all of our project, actually, all of our communities have been really interested in youth and how to engage youth, and that was no different in Moywood. They were very much concerned about how do we get our youth involved in things, how do we help them grow and develop. But at the same time, they had concerns potentially around food security issues, which is something that can always be a problem for people in some of the kind of underserved communities that we have, or where there's food deserts around and things like that. And in addition to that, it tied really well with our themes of environmental change and issues like flood risk in Eastern North Carolina, because the landscape that we have, right, really contributes to whether we have more floods or less floods, right? You just think about cities, right, where you have a lot of concrete and covered up land surfaces, or just hardened ground, right? It's really hard for water to seep into that ground. And so it can lead to a lot more flooding and a lot more issues like that. But having more lands, converting those to spaces that can take up that water and when it rains, really use it, can reduce some of those risks. So not only is it about like these community needs, but it was a nice way to bring in some of these science topics around flooding and resilience, and bring in things like sensors to help them monitor the gardens.
It's beautiful what you have done.
Yeah.
It truly is a gift. But I do want to talk more about what you were saying about groundwater, because I've done a little bit of research, and I read some of your publications and noticed your interest in ground-penetrating radar and the uses for groundwater modeling. Could you describe what the impact has been made for water quality insurance?
So, I've been working with ground penetrating radar a really long time,
Yes,
since
sir.
I did my dissertation work. And so radar is a tool that lets you look down into the ground. So you can just move along and not have to dig any holes, but still understand what's happening under
No
your feet.
invasiveness.
So yes, a non-invasive
Yes, sir.
technique. So it's pretty cool that way. How to go about understanding that data and interpreting those images, that's been a really big part of what I've been working on and looking at since I was a graduate student. And so we've worked on a lot of different kinds of approaches for that. Like back in my dissertation, we started with things like using artificial intelligence, neural networks to go and interpret patterns within that.
You guys were
data.
already using like large language models back in.
So it wasn't large language models. It was different. It was neural networks, but it was very much looking at pattern recognition and kind of like the way people do image recognition, image detection type things, sort of along those lines, but tuned and specific for this kind of radar data.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, we were using that to help us develop groundwater models so that you could actually monitor where water's flowing and how contaminants might be moving in the ground surface. And then my group over time, before I came to ECU, was at Clemson University. I actually had a really big lab there where we did a lot of really cool stuff with, like we had a building where we built a giant tank, like a giant sand tank.
Oh.
And so we had like a robotic radar system that we built that would kind of move all the antennas around for the radar by itself. And that allowed us to do really cool stuff, like do real-time 3D imaging. So like when water is flowing into the subsurface, we could image where it's going and kind of see what it looks like and do like other advanced kinds of analysis techniques. So we've done a lot with radar, not only to kind of look into groundwater and like aquifers, shallow aquifers and things, but also to understand in the very near surface, in the unsaturated zone, because there's water below our feet everywhere, but it doesn't mean it's totally full of water everywhere. We've looked at how water moves through that unsaturated zone and how much water is available for plants and how much how that might impact the transport of contaminants to actual groundwater or salt accumulation in soils. So lots of different things. A lot of that with radar, but we've also used a lot of other geophysical imaging tools as well.
That's fascinating and groundbreaking development for seeing how the water moves after a storm. Not just the water that flows into the rivers, but the water that we stand on every day that we don't even know about.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's truly fascinating. Well, thank you so much for your endeavor into that research.
You're welcome.
Yes, sir. Well, going back to more of your research and what you've done, if someone wanted to make a career out of the areas of your expertise, what would you recommend they do?
Oh, that's such a great question. I mean, there's so many opportunities and so many different kinds of things you can do, right? So I think it depends a little bit on kind of where people are thinking they might want to go with their career, right? Like what kind of jobs they might do. A lot of folks end up working in, say, the environmental consulting industry, and so that's really working with people on real issues, day-to-day problems, things like, gas stations that had leaking tanks and need to get cleaned up because they're giving us, threats to our health.
Yes, sir.
Right? And so designing systems to clean up that environment, understanding how our environment is changing with climate change, so government So the government should be doing a lot to work and understand what kind of those impacts are and help people think about how to adjust and adapt to those problems. There's lots of opportunities there.
Yes, sir.
I mean, there's lots of opportunities in reaching out to communities and education and growth. So there's like so many ways you can go. And I mean, I have a pretty unusual background in that I actually cover a lot of different research areas and things. And so I think really there's a good opportunity for people no matter what they're interested in. Like I've certainly been very grateful for like the crazy opportunities I've had by being a professor. So I will say that it's been a huge honor to be a professor, to meet great students like you and work with you guys. Because it makes such a difference at the end of the day. I don't ever think it matters what you do so much as that you're giving yourself back to people and making a difference.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. So what, in the context of what water quality is, what does water mean to you? Not just as a professor looking into it, but as a human that wakes up in the morning. Just what does water mean to you?
That's such a good question. So I'm going to give you a really long answer and then you can edit out what you want. So when I was an undergrad, never thought I would be in water when I started out. In fact, I started out as an undergrad in physiology because I thought I'd be a doctor.
Really?
Yeah, and I actually switched in my undergrad to an environmental physical sciences degree.
Yes.
And even then, I thought I'd be like more of a chemist kind of thing, maybe working for a company in a lab or something like that. But I think I got exposed to a few things. One, as an undergrad, kind of halfway through my degree, I took a class on water in developing countries and kind of thinking about, how important water is to us as humans, right? Biologically, culturally, all of these things. It's just so fundamentally important. I got really interested in that. Plus, I come from like a farming background, and so the idea of water and even way back then, we were thinking about climate change and things, and water availability in the future. And so, thinking about all of those things, how are we going to have water for us as people, for crops, for the environment? That's certainly something that motivated me to start moving into the water field. And then, I got really, really passionate about water. I've ended up doing a lot of really interesting, kind of cool things. So I actually, probably one of the things you haven't found out yet, is that I actually had the very first ever Geoscientists Without Borders project.
Really?
And so I worked with villagers in India, where we were working on water harvesting. So the problem there is that, if you're familiar with India, they get the monsoon rains where it really rains a lot all at once in the year, and then it's really pretty dry the rest of the year. And so because of the high intensity rainfall, it would run off and they would lose all that water, would go down the rivers and out to the ocean. And so the government was really pushing people to go and build small little dams to try and capture that water and have the ponds behind them recharge groundwater over time. And so...
Sounds beautiful.
Yeah, for sure. But there's a lot of questions about, like, is that really working? Is it not working? Is it... Who's getting the benefits of that water? Because certainly there are a lot of water-intensive crops that suddenly sprung up right around these areas. So, so that was the first case where we worked on kind of a monitoring program, field-scale monitoring program with some villagers and using different geophysical tools and other hydrologic monitoring tools and community science to come together to all work to understand what was happening with this water in these villages. And then it turned out actually the NGO, or the non-governmental organization I was working with, kind of took all that we did and kind of taught them, like, again, the workshop on how to characterize and monitor watersheds. So they ended up taking that one little study and then they implemented it all across the country. So they created a national monitoring program from it, which was
Wow.
pretty cool. Yeah. So lots of really cool
That's
things. I've had
fascinating.
lots of really cool opportunities because of water. It's one last thing I'll share with you just about kind of my feelings on water. So I don't teach it at ECU, unfortunately, but when I was at Clemson, I taught a course called Experiences in Sustainable Development in Water. And one of the lectures in that class, my favorite slides of any class I've ever had or taught, where I show a picture of, well, I show a slide with the picture of the Colorado River and the Bellagio swimming pool in Las Vegas. So, and then I ask people, why do you think I'm showing you these two pictures?
I don't know.
What do you think, Tyler?
Yeah.
What do you think the relationship between the Colorado River, which is where Las Vegas gets all its water
Yes,
from,
sir.
and the Bellagio swimming pool in Las Vegas is?
I mean, I feel like you're going to point out the water quality or
Well,
that it comes from the same place or something?
No, exactly. That's exactly right. And so students in that class would always give a lot of great answers and a lot of really well thought out answers about, well, you know, the water from the Colorado River is the water in that Bellagio swimming pool. So lots of conversations about sustainability and all kinds of issues like that, the environment. But and they were great. They were fantastic answers. But I'd always say, no, that's not why I showed you these pictures. I showed you these pictures because I was sitting at the Bellagio swimming pool reading a book called Cadillac Desert, which is all about the mismanagement of water resources in the western United States, and particularly the Colorado River.
Wow, yeah.
Right? And I was like, and I showed them that because I was like, we as people, right? Like, I enjoyed my time at the Bellagio swimming pool. I valued it. But I'm also a professor of hydrology, and I value the environment and water in the environment, right?
Yes, sir.
And so my point to them is we as people have complex sets of values, right? Where we really have to think about, like, what are the things we're doing and why are we doing them, and understand, like, there are always going to be different options and different things to think about.
Yes,
and I mean, and I really enjoyed that time at the Bellagio swimming pool with my pina colada, right? So,
yes, sir.
So I mean, it's not always so black and white, some of these things. So I think that's one of the things. I love that slide because it really points to things are more complex than sometimes people like to kind of make them out to be.
Yes, absolutely. And I guess my last question to you is, how has your research impacted your life? It sounds like your everyday life. It sounds like your whole focus is water, and it has really shaped the experiences you have had in your life. It's a beautiful thing, and I love the endeavor because water is such a basic necessity. It's one of the first things you just know. Drink water.
Yeah.
Everyone tells you. So taking care of it and managing it, especially not just for yourself, but for communities and other countries, you've really done a lot. So I guess asking how it's impacted your everyday life is kind of silly because it's all you've been about since your dissertation.
Yeah, I don't think it's silly at all. I think that's actually a great question. And it's one of those things, I think, right? Sometimes people talk about work-life balance,
Yes.
right? How important it is to separate work from other things, from your life.
Yes, sir.
And I think for me, right, like, I love water.
Yes, sir.
And I'm always thinking about, I'm always thinking about lots of things. And I think it is important to separate work from life when, work invades into the space to create barriers to your life, right? To create issues for your relationships, for your family, other things.
Yes, sir.
But I think when sometimes work is a part of your life and it's something you enjoy and it's something you love and you grow in, it's not so much, a conflict. It's something that you can really find those opportunities to bring things together. And like I remember my daughter pulling the radar out in the field when she was 4.
Oh,
right?
That's awesome.
So, there's lots of opportunities for finding those places where things come together. And we can be whole people instead of trying to split up our lives into different things.
Yes, sir. Well, Thank you so much for coming on the Water We Share podcast.
You're welcome. I was happy to be here. Anytime.